The sun hovered low over the rim of the savannah, spilling gold across the endless stretch of grass. I was driving along a rugged dirt road, heading toward the reserve gates after photographing giraffes near the watering holes. The morning breeze carried a warm, earthy smell, familiar, nostalgic, and I left the windows down, letting nature ride with me. The peacefulness shattered in seconds, out of nowhere. A flash of white-beige movement broke through the tall grass. A large shape, fast, wild, bolted directly toward my vehicle. Instinct took control that my foot hit the brake so violently that the wheels skidded, and dust engulfed the Jeep like a thick red storm cloud. Heart hammering, I grabbed the wheel. Hard enough to whiten my knuckles. The tires screeched to a stop. Standing in front of me, no more than 4 meters away, was a lioness. Not just any lioness, one of the most majestic animals on Earth. But something was terribly wrong. Around her neck hung a car tire, wedged tight, half buried into her skin like a black death ring. The rubber was twisted and damaged, almost fused to her body from years of friction and weather. She panted heavily, ribs expanding hard, breath sharp and painful. I could see bone structure where fur once grew. She was suffering, badly. The lioness did not charge, and she didn't run. She just stood there, staring at me with a desperate stillness that no wild animal should ever have. It was desperation so deep it drowned out instinct. That alone told me she had been fighting this battle far longer than anyone knew. My hand shook when I opened the door, but I moved slowly, keeping eyes locked with hers. The savannah, for a moment, went silent. Even the insects felt muted. Closer now, I could see the detail and the horror. The tire was cutting deep into her neck, wedged just above her shoulders, almost fused with her skin. Dried blood and dark scar tissue circled beneath it. And then, something caught sunlight and stabbed my eyes with metallic glare. Inside the rubber, a wire cord, rusted, frayed, poked through the inner seam, metal, sharp, serrated. Digging deeper every time she lowered her head to eat or drink. I slowly backed up, grabbed a water bottle, cut it in half using my pocket knife, poured water inside, and placed it carefully on the dirt in front of her. She stepped toward it, hesitating, trembling, and lowered her head just an inch. Then she cried, not loudly, a short, broken exhale, pain interrupting survival itself. Blood beaded along the spot where the metal cord touched her flesh. That one sound shattered me. It wasn't a roar. It wasn't a snarl. It was the sound of an animal that had been hurting so long that pain and exhaustion had replaced fear. She tried again and failed. The lioness lifted her head and stared at me, an unspoken plea visible in her dark amber eyes. She wasn't here to attack. She came to surrender. Not to me, but to hope. I circled slowly, staying wide, avoiding sudden movements. She followed me with her gaze, but her legs shook, not from aggression, from weakness. Her fur was worn completely around the neck, leaving exposed, inflamed skin. The tire looked heavier than it should, and it hung like something filled, packed, weighted with years of debris. I cautiously gripped the tire and pulled. The lioness jerked her head back with a soft growl, but not a warning growl, a growl begging, please stop. That hurts. Her antelope-strong shoulders tensed, and she took a step back. It was hopeless. The tire wouldn't budge, not even a millimeter. It became clear. This was not a job for bare hands. My fingers trembled as I unlocked my phone and dialed the wildlife rescue number stapled on every park brochure. The dispatcher listened patiently as I explained, voice shaky, breath uneven. She said 4 words that were both reassuring and terrifying. Stay with the lioness. Help was coming, but until then, the safekeeping of a suffering predator sat solely on my shoulders. 20 long minutes passed. The lioness stood motionless most of the time, blinking slowly, conserving the little strength she had left. She never tried to run, never tried to attack, never even attempted to drink again. The tire had stolen those simple life functions from her. Finally, dust clouds on the horizon. A wildlife pickup arrived. A veterinarian stepped out carrying a medical case and tranquilizer rifle. He walked a full circle around her and whispered, "Good God, she's been like this for years." He prepared a tranquilizer dart and fired. The lioness flinched slightly, then gradually her eyes softened. muscles loosening like a marionette whose strings had finally been set down. Point 5 minutes. Point 10. She remained standing, but quiet, drifting. The vet approached, gripped the tire, attempted to rotate. It didn't move. I asked why it felt unnaturally heavy. He leaned inside with a flashlight and let out a slow, pained sigh. It's filled, packed, with mud, branches, stones, dried clay. Over years it hardened. He shook his head. She's been carrying almost the weight of a second head. He tried using a small saw blade. Spark snapped. Metal resisted. There's a steel cord. We need hydraulic cutting tools. He radioed the fire department that we had no choice but to wait. Again, this time we didn't stand idle. We began freeing what we could, digging the packed mud with gloves, carving out solid earth, pulling out stones and twig fragments with the help of a screwdriver. I stood by the lioness's head, gently stroking between her ears, whispering calmness into the warm, fragile breath that brushed against my forearm. Her fur was coarse, but her eyes softened under the human touch she should never have needed. The mud was cemented inside, but every handful removed felt like peeling away a piece of burden. Still, even empty, the tire refused to rise. Her skull structure and muscles wouldn't allow that angle that we needed to cut. And the clock was ticking. The tranquilizer wouldn't hold forever. The next 15 minutes felt like an hour. Then, sirens in the wind. A fire truck arrived, red, loud, unreal against the savannah backdrop. This rescue was about to become something far bigger than any of us expected. The firefighters approached cautiously. Lions aren't standard rescue calls, but the sedative held her quiet, half awake. The world drifting around her. Point 2 men pulled out hydraulic shears, massive, powerful, normally used to cut open mangled vehicle doors. The first attempt slipped. Rubber was too smooth, too rounded. The second firefighter wiped his forehead. No grip, he muttered. We need a jagged edge. I remembered the spot where we dug out the mud. There, I pointed. Use that gap. He set the blades deep into the uneven cut. The tool whined. Metal strained. Then, the steel cord snapped, but the tire didn't fall apart. It clung on, held by the opposite side. They repositioned. Another struggle, another burst of force. The tire split. The vet and firefighter grabbed each half and removed them carefully from the lioness's neck. Point 1 half hit the ground with a thud that seemed far too heavy for what should have been a simple piece of rubber. The second firefighter leaned down, tried lifting just one half, struggled, and let out a whistle. This thing's heavy. I ran to my car, grabbed my fishing scale from the back. We weighed both halves. 19 kilograms. Nearly 20 kilos, hanging from her neck for 2 years. Imagine living with a 20-kilogram dead weight strapped to your throat every day, every night, every step. The vet cleaned the inflamed neck, the fur nearly gone, skin raw but not infected. He applied antiseptic, then a thick layer of healing ointment. He whispered almost to himself, "She's lucky, unbelievably lucky." Finally, he injected the reversal sedative. We stepped back. Seconds passed. Her eyelids fluttered. Her muscles re-engaged, slowly. The lioness lifted her head, cautious, confused. Then she turned and lowered her mouth toward the shallow puddle near a rock, and she drank. Long, greedily, deeply, the way creatures drink only when their soul remembers thirst. We watched silently, no one daring to break the sacredness of the moment. She lifted her head, moved her neck left, then right, almost as if she didn't recognize her own freedom. Then, she rubbed her neck against a tree trunk, hard. With relief, everyone smiled, even the firefighter who rode here expecting flames, not fur. After a minute, the lioness turned, her amber eyes scanning each of our faces. Not afraid, not frantic, simply acknowledging. Then she stepped toward the tall grass and disappeared, her gait slow but confident, the savannah swallowing her into its golden waves. The firefighter picked up the tire halves and shook his head. How does something like this even happen? The vet answered with a sadness reserved only for human-made problems. Someone dumped that tire in the wild. Years ago, when she was young, her head was smaller. Possibly after she shed her first horns, the tire slipped over. She grew, the tire didn't. Mud packed inside over time, turning it into concrete weight. When the steel cord finally broke through her skin, pain would have been unbearable. She came onto the road looking for help, and thank God someone stopped. His words hung in the air that we watched the tall grass move until it stilled. The rescue had lasted less than 3 hours, but it would be a memory carved permanently into my soul. Lioness fought for 2 years, carrying weight that wasn't hers, suffering pain she never deserved. And when she finally reached the end of her strength, she did the unthinkable. She turned to humans, not out of trust, but out of last hope. That day, in the middle of the savannah, surrounded by strangers with tools and gloves and concern, she found help. Sometimes the wild saves itself. Sometimes humans make it worse. But sometimes, rarely, we get to fix what we broke, and that changes everything.